A very pleasant good morning, good afternoon, good evening, magandang umaga po, magandang tanghali, magandang hapon at magandang gabi. Welcome to our Chronicles, and this is Rita Gadi. We have a special guest, and before I introduce him, there are many things that we will have to talk about, many things that concern our daily lives, many things that will concern us in the future. But if you will look at the title of our program, it is actually a verb which we use in conjugation, future progressive. We are aware of the fact that there are three tenses: the past, the present, and the future. But there are also nuances to this, if that's the right word to use. You have the past perfect, you have the present active, and then you have what the title of our program is, the future progressive. Why am I talking about these grammatical elements? That's precisely how we can classify the many things that we talk about. What was it in the past? Past perfect. What is at the present active. And then we look to tomorrow and the following years thereafter, and we say that could be the future progressive. So we will try to span the horizons of our time zones from the past to the present to the future, and coordinate this with the things that are happening right in front of us, and hopefully projecting this into the future progressive. So that is how we have the title for this particular program. There's nothing complicated about this. It's just simple grammar, simple tenses of the past, the present, and the future. So I'd like to welcome our special guest, somebody who has come all the way back together with me from, oh my goodness, not really centuries ago, but millennia ago, if we have to talk about it that way. We always try to associate ourselves with Methuselah. So do some research on that and you will know where my guest is coming from. He is one outstanding individual, not just in the line of politics, but also in poetry. So that is how we got along quite well. And there are many things also that we've been critical about. We've disagreed about many things, but we've always come to a common denominator. And that is, of course, the vast expanse of his great mind, especially what is between his ears. I'd like to welcome our guest, whom I hope could be a regular, HOMOBONO ADAZA.
Thank you, Rita. It's been always a pleasure to be your guest in this program and to talk about things that make a difference.
Exactly. Thank you very much. You will recall way back, we had the program Sentido Común. You remember this?
Correct.
And for several years, that's exactly what we were trying to do until we really had to write an obituary. Because I think nobody lamented the death of Sentido Común. And so we had to bury Sentido Común somewhere without even a marker on the grave. But we still try to revive Sentido Común every once in a while. But Bono, let's talk about the grammatical time zone that we have. Our past, because in one of your columns you mentioned a certain Gorospe who was a classmate of the old man Ferdinand Edralin Marcos. And then, of course, we talk about what you have gone through in politics from the time that you decided after UP and being the college editor, of the Philippine Collegian. But after that, you entered politics, and that is where I think you really came about the landscape of our country. So, Bono, the past is what we call the past perfect. Why is it so that we try to retrieve many things of that time and hope that we can still have it in the present, but then we look forward that maybe someday we will have something of what we had in the past. What do you think of this?
Yes, past perfect. When you talk about past, I talk about Ferdinand Edralin Marcos, and it's perfect.
Oh, wow.
You know, Marcos as a leader, FM as a leader, shows the things that a leader should be. Brilliant, visionary, revolutionary, disciplined, committed to country and people. And he meant what he said and said what he meant. That's what I like about him. I fought Marcos on the level of politics, and probably also on the level of ideas, because I had fundamental disagreements with him. Like I told him once, Mr. President, you should not have declared martial law. You should have declared a revolutionary government, because you cannot create a society under martial law, but you can under a revolutionary government. And he just smiled, probably thinking what I was thinking about, because in one occasion he said, Panyero, you should join me. We both graduated from the UP College of Law. You dream dreams for our people. So am I. You're an ideologue. So am I. And he paused for a while. And on top of that, we are two of a kind.
Yeah, Bono, you just missed the chance to be by him, because I remember that when the president called for the snap elections in 1985 and the elections were in 1986, I think he invited you to join him as his vice president, which you refused. You decided to just stay in the opposition. But can you imagine if you became our vice president and then the president Marcos was forced into exile? Oh my goodness, Bono.
No. Rita, if I were the president of Ferdinand Marcos, he would never be exiled. Never is the word. He would remain as president of the country until he decides to quit as president.
Oh wow,
within the context of the Constitution.
That's the past perfect that we missed.
One of the biggest mistakes, really, in the history of this country was driving Marcos out of office.
Yeah.
After Marcos, nobody dreamed dreams for our people. There is no vision except television.
Nobody dreams anymore, but Bono, the junior Marcos, spoke of the dreams in his inaugural speech. That's exactly what he said. Your dreams are my dreams, and we shall dream this together to realize it. Yes.
I was thinking he meant what he said. He said, let's unite, let's cooperate. Okay, my position, even your time of FM, is after the elections, there should be no partisan politics. We should cooperate with the government in the growth program. We'll call the attention of the government if the program is not good and propose a solution. That's what I did as a member of parliament and as governor of Misamis Oriental, despite the fact that I was only one of two. Strangely, Rita,
yes.
They called my attention. Every time FM called for the meeting in Malacanang, I was there. And the big guns of the opposition were telling me, why do you go to Malacanang? I said, what are you talking about? The man is president. I'm governor of my province. And you don't like me to talk with the president. That's bad. You should have told me not to run for governor. If you want me not to see the president.
But
now,
start,
I will see the president because he's the president and I'm the governor. And one time, Rita, another president sent his national security advisor, said, Bon, the president would like to talk to you, if you don't mind. I said, I don't mind. She's president and I'm a citizen. And it's my duty to talk to him. I have no partisan politics in respect to matters that really count for this country and our people.
But Bono, there is something that you said, which I think we have to elaborate on. When you said that after Ferdinand Edralin Marcos left, or he was forced to leave, people did not dream anymore for so many, from so many years, 37, 38 years, until you have another Marcos now. But you're mentioning something about bringing back that past perfect. And when Marcos Jr. had his inaugural speech, that's exactly what he talked about. Perhaps segueing to what his father has said about people's dreams, which would hopefully be realized during this Junior Marcos term. But we go back to what it was then. As you said, Marcos Sr. said what he meant and meant what he said. And that is where the basis and the foundation was. He had
Right.
a Filipino ideology.
Correct.
How important is this for a leader, especially for a developing country like ours, or a country that's already in the midway of development? How important is it to have an ideology? And can that ideology of Marcos Sr. still be relevant to the present
Yes.
active?
Side by side, Rita, with the New Horizon. Because I have also a concept. I'm writing a book right now, no?
Uh-huh.
Calling together my experience based on my governorship, because my governorship was anchored on the New Horizons,
Okay.
dreams for my people in Misamis Oriental. And I tried to accomplish them. They wanted me to stay as governor. I said, I cannot stay as governor because this is an oasis and a desert. We expand our horizons. So my slogan was, today, Mindanao, tomorrow, the Philippines.
Wow. Am I
It's,
glad that I also come from the same island as you anyway?
I know. As a matter of fact, Rita, I have mentioned this to some people before, but I insist that in this book of mine, I am proposing that we change the name of this country to Mindanao. Why? Why are we using the word Philippines? It's named after Philip of Spain. He exploited the country. Exploitation of the country. Exploited our minds. And 500 years of Spanish influence, what have we got? Let me ask everybody. Rampant graft and corruption, according to former President Rodrigo Duterte. Illegal drugs, almost in every barangay. Almost in every barangay. Allowing people to claim the things that belong to us. And we could not do anything about it. Being silent when somebody says, the Philippines is a province of China. I said, my eyes is part of China, but the Philippines cannot be a province of China. Please. This is an independent country. That's why, and Mindanao, Rita, pardon me for saying this, has, in the words of Speaker Laurel, has brains in its balls and balls in its brains.
Oh my goodness. We
This
speak
is
of
This is the only area, Rita, that has been completely conquered by any foreigners. Not by the Chinese, not by the British, not by the Americans, not by the Japanese. And during the time of FM, the first place where an opposition party was organized was in Mindanao. Mindanao Alliance.
the Mindanao
Because
Alliance.
the
Yes, you headed
national
this.
opposition, Rita, said, no, we will not participate in the election. That will be legitimizing Marcos. So I told President Macapagal, Mr. President, what are you talking about? This is a developing country. Legitimacy is possession of power. The president is there. He wants us to participate in the election. And now we don't like to participate. Why? Do you want to participate in an armed revolution? I'm willing to do that if you are. You know, out of 20, nobody wanted to participate in the armed revolution. It was only me. So I told them, then I'll organize a regional political party to accept the challenge of the president.
Yes.
And I did.
Yeah. At this point, Bono, I just want to remind many of our listeners and some of our viewers on Zoom, actually, Bono ADAZA has been the opposition during the time of Ferdinand Edralin Marcos, Senior Marcos. And in spite of the fact that he was in the opposition, he was well respected in the sense that he stood actually opposing Marcos while the voting for the presidential snap elections was ongoing. I keep repeating this just so long as people will have a perspective of where Bono was standing at that time. You would see that the canvassing of the electoral returns was actually held at the in Parliament, the Batasang Pambansa. That is according to our Constitution, the way it was then, so it is likewise today. And as far as the canvassing was concerned, Bono stood as the lone member, actually, of the opposition who stood beside the Speaker of the House, Speaker Nicanor Iniguez. And for every result, a canvassing result that came out that was questionable, he had an asterisk placed on it, and that was not counted. So I just want to repeat this as often as I mention Bono ADAZA, just to show you how the horizon that he speaks of has already come to a point when he has realized, after all the opposition he had during the time, that it was still the perfect past that we had during the time of Ferdinand Edralin Marcos. But let's get back to this basis of an ideology which could still be relevant to this day. Where do you think we are going, the present active, so that we can have a future progressive with an ideology which seems to be just part of a slogan now, ang bagong Pilipinas, but not really spelling the exact horizon, as you would say, as far as that's concerned.
The slogan is not even bago. Rita, Pilipinas, that's more than 5 centuries ago. Bago. Every time a new president comes into the picture, bago. It's not new.
Okay.
Bagong Filipino is
Yeah.
not new. But please, Mr. President, now I'm addressing it to the President. Make your word in your inauguration and in your first zona and the second zona count. You want us to unite, demonstrate unity. You want us to cooperate. We are cooperating. But Mr. President, I wrote you 3 letters. 1 delivered personally and 2 open letters. I didn't even get a reply. I don't mind not getting a reply. But I had wanted to see a few things being done on the level of my proposals, but none. That's why I was saying, I keep on saying, I just had a talk today, Rita, by the way,
Yes.
of a Mindanaoan who is a member of the BBM crowd. No? He has a position in government.
Okay.
And the most important position in Mindanao for that matter. And I was telling him, please, since you are having a conversation with the president, tell him that I would just like the president to listen whether what I'm saying is correct or not. Because Rita, I don't like, modesty aside, a lot of modesty. I was telling this man, I don't like to mention his name because he might protest. I was telling him, if I sit down with the president, we check the documents, the facts and figures, the money that he wants brought into the country is there in 30 days. He doesn't have to go around for investments.
Oh, wow.
We don't need foreign investments. The money is here. Bush was correct, President Bush. The Philippines is the richest country in the world. And if I have a few minutes with the president, I'll prove to him why.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll be repeating that that request as the program proceeds, so that there will be a time when Junior Marcos would call for you. You know, Bono, that's the difference. I can see that between, so far, it's been 2 zonas already, as a matter of fact. But the old man Marcos, whenever there is an opposition to the things that he would be saying, he would talk to the opposition, or he would
Correct.
call them. We were under martial law for 11, 12 years. And every time that he would be issuing a presidential decree, he would, he would confer with the opposition privately or on the phone and discuss certain presidential decrees that he will be issuing. So that, I think, is where the difference that I can see so far, although I have no access to Malacanang now at this stage. But during the time of the old man, since my coverage, my contract with the government was to cover the office of the president, so I was just right behind the study room, and there I could hear that if he would be calling members of the opposition. One of them, as a matter of fact, he appointed to the Supreme Court a member of the opposition, a lady, because he has been conferring with her for the longest time, and said, well, you might as well sit in the Supreme Court because I've discussed with you so many of the legal matters as far as the presidential decrees is concerned. So that is where I think there is a difference. Although we do not know, we have no access to private conversations of Junior Marcos, but his father had this is a regular, continuous conversations he had with the opposition. Like, as you said, Bono, many times he has also spoken to you and discussed many things with you. And so that is precisely what you mean by cooperating. Cooperating not just with the BBM loyalists or the Marcos loyalists, but also with the opposition who are loyal to the country, to the nation. I think
Correct,
that's what's important.
Let me cite a specific example. There was drought in Mindanao
Drought.
during the time
Yeah.
drought in
Okay.
Mindanao during the time of him. He called for a conference of governors
Mhm.
of Mindanao. So
You were governor then.
I came, and all the governors before we met with the president saying, Bono, you better be our spokesman because we cannot tell the president and tell him to call a spade a spade. You can do that. Okay, I'll serve you spokesman. So you were there. I told the president, Mr. President, there is a drought in Mindanao. The bananas are like my fingers. The earth is cracking. And then he said, no, there's no drought. There's only a temporary hot spell. I said, no, Mr. President, this is not hot spell. So I proposed the office of the president grants one sack of rice for a beginning in the farming families in Mindanao to ease their pain. So you know what? One of the governors was insisting that I should be the spokesman. The president said, hey, is the governor saying true? He said, in my province, Mr. President, it's already raining. That's in your province. It's already raining. I wanted to kick him. He was the one who was persuaded that I be the spokesman. And he said,
They
it's
want to
raining.
present, another.
And you know what? Bong Tangco, Secretary of
Agriculture
said,
at the time.
Governor, the president will grant you the request. We have pictures and videos
Yeah.
of what's happening there. And
Exactly.
truly, the day after, sack of rice for every family
Yeah.
in Mindanao. That's how fast.
Yeah. That
Words.
was then.
He meant
The-
what he said
we
and said
see-
what he meant.
We see the video of Marcos Jr. quite often when he calls for a cabinet meeting. As a matter of fact, I think he has 2 or 3 meetings in a week. And at the end of this, when he has the time, he would either summarize this, talk about it, and mention what was taken up and all. But the actual details of what was taken up during cabinet meetings, we don't have very much of this except with certain pronouncements that he would be making. And within a week, for instance, Bono, he would be attending several events. And so he has perhaps something like 3 speeches a day for an
Wow.
inauguration, for groundbreaking, etc., and all of this. But what, his father, when his father calls for a cabinet meeting, the first thing he would say or tell his cabinet, what's the bad news? So, in other words, summarize to me as briefly as you can what are the 5 problems we have so that right now we can already discuss the 5 solutions we can give to this. So that's how it goes from the ground up. That's how it starts. But we don't have very much of that anymore. Perhaps it's taken into private discussion with the members of the cabinet. But even that, Bono, sadly, we don't have very much to gather from the executive departments because not all of them are actually broadcasting exactly what's taken up in their respective offices. So that I could see is the difference. Although I may be wrong, there might be private conversations that Junior Marcos holds with his members of the cabinet, which is not really being broadcast, whatever it is. But that's the difference that I could see as of now.
You're not wrong.
The past perfect and the present active. And that's where we want to go, the future progressive, as a matter of fact.
Rita, you're not wrong. Because let me tell you, and I don't like this to be a secret, a number of a number of people who claim to be Marcos loyalists, and they are. I mean, FM, they are quite disappointed with BBM because he's more something else than FM.
But
You know,
as they say, there will always be that's a generation already between the father and the son. So you cannot expect an identical manner of presenting this. But for example, anyway, not for example, but Bono, if you could summarize in 5 brief sentences the 5 major problems we have, and then the 5 major solutions that we could possibly have, which you feel that members of the executive offices are not dealing with as actively as we would want them to, and how the president will have to deal with this himself, as he does, as often as it should be done.
yes, prices, one,
Prices
of commodities and services.
okay,
Yeah, he was saying in his speech that it's stabilized. It has not. I tell you, Rita, about several months back, I was buying a pack of milk at 64. Now it's 98 and 102, shifting back and forth. 98. That's not stabilizing. You know, 2 weeks ago, I bought a pack of polvoron, which everybody it was I don't know, they consume everything that I bought. 81 pesos per box. You know, the day after the SONA, it's 151.
oh my
That's not
goodness,
stability.
yeah.
Meralco, they are again threatening to increase the price of electricity. Water, the same thing. Even bottled water is increasing. Prices have not stabilized. So focus on prices first. Justice system. Justice system. It's just getting nowhere. Getting nowhere. As a matter of fact, he should remember what an old pundit said. Deprive a man of food, and he will beg for food. Deprive a man of justice, and he will join the revolution. That's important. Justice. Third, Rita, that he should concentrate on is reducing the poverty level in this country. You know, during the last year of the 30, people claiming to be poor was about 27%. Now, I just read a authoritative report from UP Group that has been monitoring. It's 47% people claiming that they are poor. Something's wrong somewhere. Something's wrong somewhere.
We have had several instances when President Marcos Jr. has touched on all of this. As a matter of fact, he has spelled out the things that are being done. He himself is the Secretary of Agriculture, and he has mentioned the importance of having these Kadiwa stores scattered all over the country. But then again, as we said, the past perfect as far as the Kadiwa stores are concerned does not somehow parallel what is happening now. You just do not have layers and layers of all these products there and then say that this is directly coming from the agricultural sector, because they're not. I mean, so they have to, that will have to be looked into. You mentioned,
I'll propose solutions later.
yeah, you mentioned all of this, several of this, Bono, prices of commodities, etc.
Yes.
Increasing. There is also this problem that, for instance, in the market, they say you buy a kilo of noodles or a pancit or whatever, but it's actually just several grams less than a kilo, so that they do not change the price of the of the commodity, but they just reduce the contents. I was even joking the other day that I love pork and beans, so I but when you open the can, you could count the beans, and but it's still the same price, but
You know,
just less than,
Rita,
yeah,
I
the
go to the
contents.
market, no?
Yeah.
I go to the market myself because I check on prices because I enjoy going to the market.
Yes,
You
I've
know,
seen I've
one
seen your photographs, Yeah.
one day I was joking. By God, the newspapers say that the price of this is very much less than what you're selling. You know what the sales lady told me? Sir, I think you should go to the newspapers and buy it there. I should go to the
Okay,
newspaper.
so we're still with that problem. I think every time, a government is new and so forth, those are the priorities that will have to be attended to. But this is
Yes.
where I go back to when we say that the executive departments are the ones that really ought to be supporting and helping out with all the pronouncements that are being made by their president. They are, after all, the extended family, the alter ego, or however else you would call them. But I find difficulty sometimes trying to understand also many of the pronouncements from the executive departments, like you have somebody saying that as far as trade and industry is concerned, or the price of commodities as we're discussing now, they have now come up with a high frequency monitoring system. I mean, something as highfalutin as that, and sometimes it's really difficult to understand. So are the prices going down if you have this high frequency monitoring system, etc.? Anyway, but
There's
that's
something wrong. There's
the,
something you with the frequency they're using. It
so
doesn't register the
exactly. So
correct
that's why we're
prices.
back to grammar.
Yeah,
The English
correct.
language ought to be very simple for us. That's why I said past, present, and future. The past perfect, the present active, and then the future progressive. But somehow, the use of words whenever they are supposed to express like the growth of the economy, etc., do not seem to to be connected with each other. Like I used to say this when I was editing the broadsheet, and I said something like, make sure that your subject agrees with your predicate, and I'll fill up, yeah. But what is happening now is we hear a lot of statements coming from several offices, and that's exactly it. We can't connect the subject to the predicate. And if you can't do that, how can it connect now to the plate on the table, the clothes that we will have to wear, etc., and all of this, the jobs that we're looking for, and so forth? It all boils down to that. Not just the expression of the words that are being said in speeches, but the connection that it will have to the common people, if we
Yes.
call them common, to the most of
Again,
the people.
problems, health services, education. No, and I'll give the solutions. Education leaves so much to be desired. You know, you have to have a visionary approach to problems, like prices. Why don't they control the participation of the middlemen? They may cut the middlemen in all this, and the price will be brought down. Talk to the producers. They are escalating the prices of commodities at the expense of the consumers, especially of the poor and the middle class. Tell them, okay, let's do it right. Let's limit your profits. Don't let it reach to the point that it is beyond the reach of the poor. Limit your profits, or otherwise, if you don't, I'll do something drastic. That's one. Okay. Talk to Meralco and the water companies. Hey, everybody is complaining about price. Your borrowings, you even charge it to the consumers. No, no, that's not right. That's not right. There are so many things you put into the charges which should not be there. Okay, let's limit your profits. Limit your profits. and then uh, I will let you continue to operate. If you don't, I'll do something drastic. You have to do that with these people. But the only language they understand is threats coming from the president. They will behave. If the president tells me that, that's what a leader should do. A leader, Rita, should risk. Most of our leaders are afraid of the oligarchs, of the political oligarchs, of the economic oligarchs, of the religious oligarchs, of the professional oligarchs, all kinds of oligarchs. By God, sovereignty resides in the people, and all government authority emanates from them. Section 1, Article 2 of the Constitution.
Which is
And the president
the definition of a
represents the
democracy,
people.
precisely, yes, which is not what
He
is actually
represents the
happening.
people.
Yeah, right. So you
Represent the
mentioned,
people.
yeah,
So
you
he
mentioned
should be
you-
able to do that.
exactly.
The
It ought
water,
to be, yeah.
the water company, he should do the same thing.
But
He
then
should do the same thing.
you mentioned this as the public services, Bono,
Yes.
water, power, all of this, even the prices of commodities, etc. And you said something about this being controlled by the oligarchs. That was
Yes. They are
not the
controlled by
case
the oligarchs.
in the past. What is
Even
an
now.
oligarchy? What is an oligarch? If we really look at the origin of
An
this word,
oligarch
it's a
is
Greek
person
word.
or a
It's-
family
No,
who has, wealth, power.
yeah, it's a Greek word, oligarcho. Oligarchia. Do you know how
Oligarchy.
it's defined really from the origin of the word? It is despotic power exercised by a privileged few.
Group.
I have to repeat this. We keep on mentioning this. Hawak kasi ng oligarch. Oligarch kasi an oligarch. But we have to realize what an oligarch is. What oligarchy is. Who are the oligarchs? It's a despotic power exercised by a privileged group. That
They're
is the
despotic.
origin of the word, and that's exactly what's happening.
They're
Public
exactly
services,
despotic.
Bono, why
Rita.
are they being held by the oligarchs? Is this not to be held by government as it was in the past
Yeah.
perfect?
That's why you are asking. The answer is nationalization. There are many countries in the world that are successful in nationalization. In my previous experience, and I've been to that country, the Soviet Union. Well, their ideology is different. No? It's Marx, Engels, Lenin, Trotsky, and Stalin. But a welfare state can bring the same results. Yes, welfare state can bring results. Why should, for instance, Rita, the schools be controlled by private families? Why should be the private schools? They should be operated all by government, because education is a government function. It's a function of state. So why give it to them? Many people cannot afford to be doctors. Why don't we allow people, if they have the ability to be doctors, free from elementary to the university level? It can be done. If it's done in other countries, why can it be done here? You know the problem. We linked in, for instance, the school system. More years for people so that more profits for people who have educational institutions. Limit the number of schools, compress the curriculum. The best subject should be there. Love of country, value system, development of skills. These are the things that should be there. Elementary, 5 years. High school, 3 years. Preparatory, law or anything. Before, the good lawyers had only 2 years of preparatory law. Now, 4 years? By God, 4 years preparatory law. Why spend more time in school? The educational curriculum should be so compressed that in a short period of time, you are an educated individual. One who loves country, one who loves his fellow man, one who loves God. I mean, the values are there. I don't see values training anymore here. There is no development of character. In the old days, my dead sister, I was reading her books, character and conduct. I don't see anything there about character and conduct anymore. And
Yeah.
boy, prose and poetry before. I was only in high school.
Yeah.
I could
Yeah, we had
enjoyed the
books,
many
yeah,
poems of all
entitled
these.
Voyages in English, and that was how it. But
Yes,
going back, Bono, to something which is really quite urgent, and this is public services. There was a time, in our past perfect, when services were held by government. Remember,
correct.
electricity, for instance, we even had, what do you call this? We had returns of certain dividends, water is also was held by government. Transport also, and all of this, basic services, I think it's also in the Constitution. But something happened after 1986 when this was transferred now from government to, as you said, a group of families or a group of corporations, or now the oligarchs, you see. So what is happening, we are at the mercy of these people when the earnings of where these services are to be given and where you earn from them does not go back to the people. It goes to the pocket of those who are controlling it. But isn't that in the Constitution? I mean, what happened along the way that some changes were made, that these public services are now being held by the oligarchs? So we go back now to, as you said, even education, etc., and all of this, major changes, and really some kind of an upheaval in many of these services. But there, from the start of this new government, we have not heard anything about a new constitution to be written in order that it would really be, as you said, a government run by the people, for the people. So where do we go? Can you hear me, Bono? Or did I lose? Yeah. Bono, can you hear me? I'm sorry, we're having some audio difficulties. This happens every once in a while. As I've said, no matter what advances we've made in technology, somehow we lose the audio connection. But as I was mentioning, many changes will still have to be made. Not just changes, but as Bono said, you really need some radical movement that will have to be undertaken. We don't know how this will be proceeding to have a future progressive that would be in accordance with what Marcos Jr. has in mind, and that is that we would reach a certain level where it is already parang ano na, hindi lang sa poverty line, pero umaangat na. And that's exactly what he said, that we are going to achieve that. So we have a couple of years by which our government will be working towards that ideal. We were mentioning also many things that were already undertaken in the past. And Bono was also mentioning that there are already complaints about how things are going. But as I've said, there will always be some kind of an adjustment from several administrations in the past that made major changes, actually. One of them is, I've said, public services, which are now being controlled by families, private individuals, which should really be controlled by government. That was then. And that is why we look forward to the president's dream that what the people are aspiring for will also be obtained as his government proceeds towards this future years. And as we've said, it is quite admirable the way Marcos Jr. has been addressing the people on many occasions. I've said that within a week, for instance, or within a day even, he attends or speaks 3 different occasions. And every time he addresses that particular event, he also mentions the things that will have to be done. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we had in mind a long time ago was about our fishing industry, and that was one of the things that he tackled quite immediately. And then, of course, he speaks of the overseas workers. Again, in many instances that he has traveled, he has met with them, was very proud of how the world has welcomed Filipinos as really one of the best workers in the world. But again, on the other hand, he has also mentioned that there is the dream that one day they will not have to make a choice or a decision to work abroad. Did he say it was a decision or was it a choice? I think he used these words alternately to to be able to emphasize the fact that that is the kind of groundwork that he would have to lay down, enough jobs, enough qualifying jobs for better living for the Filipinos, so that they do not have to make a decision or a choice to work and to live abroad, leaving their families behind. Can you hear me now, Bono?
Yes, of course.
Okay,
Can you
very
hear
good.
me?
Yeah, I kept on talking and talking because we lost audio for quite a
You
while.
know,
So that's precisely it.
Rita,
Yes.
I'll give you a specific example. I was in the Soviet Union winter time. Winter time. I got sick and I was confined for about a week for pneumonia
What city was this in the Soviet Republic?
in Moscow.
Oh, in Moscow
itself.
itself. Yes. Okay.
And then, my God, when I was about to be released, I asked the doctor, Doc, what's my bill? He said, Bill, what's bill? How much am I going to pay? No, you don't pay anything. But I'm not a Soviet citizen. Yes, you're not a Soviet citizen, but you're a human being.
Oh wow, what a beautiful statement.
Yeah. If it could be done
Yeah.
in a place like Russia, why could we not do it here?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, many
Yeah.
things that are done and are being done elsewhere, some of them are already being done here, but not to the extent that it would really reach out to the greater majority of our people. And that is precisely, we go back again. You mentioned something about a visionary approach to this, a visionary approach to prime commodities, etc. When you say visionary approach, then there has to be a vision, right?
Yes.
So, can you spell out the vision that you see today in
The
the
vision,
present active?
Rita, is capsulized in two words: welfare state. A state that is designed for people, for everybody, for every citizen, for every human being in this country. Why can't we not do it? That kind of vision of a welfare state. FM was talking about the new society. I'm talking about a new horizon within the context of a welfare state. Because in a welfare state, the most important value is the human being, the invaluable character of the human being. That's the most important thing.
And then you also mentioned education, for instance, our education system, which needs refurbishing or practically, a lot of things that will have to be undertaken. Some time back, we talked about how it was in Japan, for instance. You brought this out in one of our programs ages ago, how the children, before they get into the curricula of the sciences, arithmetic, reading, etc., their first thought, as you said, character formation.
Yes.
So I think that's very
formation,
urgent, and not just for the lower
value
years, but I
system,
think they should continue all the way. We
and
also,
and love of country.
yes,
You know, the
love of
moment you
country.
set this as a basis for the educational system, everything will just follow.
Yeah.
You know, when I went around, by the way, no, I want to recollect this because it's apropos to what they're discussing. When Magsaysay created a Philippine Student Goodwill Tour, out of 12 people from different universities, I was one, being editor-in-chief, the Collegian. You know, when I went around in Indonesia, I said, why is everybody in education here? So because our problem is illiteracy. That's why everybody goes to education. I went to Thailand. Why is everybody in economics? Our problem is the economy of the country. We have to do something about it. When I came back to the Philippines, I asked people at the University of the Philippines, why do you want to be lawyers? That's where the money is. And that's where you can have power and influence. The same thing. My God, what is the difference, you know? In these other countries, people are thinking of country, thinking of other people, not just of themselves. Tayo, hanggang ngayon, hindi nagbabago eh. Ako, ako, ako.
Yeah.
Ako all the time. Ano ba yan? Why can't we think of our friends, of our neighbors, of our katao, of our province, of our country, because country is a conceptual system, is concept. Think about this, and then we can begin anew, really build a country. Bagong Mindanao. Mindanao na lang, huwag na yung bago, at huwag na yung bayan. Mindanao.
Yeah. Bagong,
That's the name of the country.
you
And
know,
tayo, Rita, we are all disunited. The Cebuanos like to sing the anthem in Cebuano. Some other group in Ilocano, and other group Ilonggo. So why don't we just have English? English is the universal language. Do we have to translate all the books in the world into Tagalog, into Cebuano, into Ilocano? No. We should have English. We speak better English than even the Americans and the British.
we have
Than
better
the
grammar.
worst,
Yeah,
than the Australians. So
and we can
we
spell better. Yes.
grammatically correct and no accent. Sila, maraming accent we cannot even understand. The Japanese come here to learn English. The Vietnamese come here to learn English. Koreans come here to learn English. And we want to forget English. What's the matter with us?
You know, I think we have something like 85 languages. They say that for every 1 million people that speak a certain language, that's a certain dialect, you call that already a language. So that is not supposed to separate us or divide us. It is, it is inherent that you belong to, you are raised in a certain province, you just have that language. But as you said, the unifying factor there is a common language. But
Correct.
we have there is an office known as the Commission on the National Language, which is Tagalog. And as you said, we cannot
can't be.
expect to have a lot of books that are being written on science, on several other studies, on politics and all of that in Tagalog. We can't even, up to now, they're having difficulty even translating basic arithmetic, etc. and all of this.
That's
So
why it's just concentrate on the things that count, that can make us move forward as a people.
simplify. Yes, precisely.
let's-
That's it.
let's
Just
be
simplify.
united.
Exactly.
Let's be
But then
united.
there's something I'm curious about, Bono. Nationalism, patriotism. How do you teach this? How does it become part of your awareness on a day-to-day basis? As you said, people don't care throwing trash around, etc. kasi walang pagmamahal sa bayan. Pagmamahal sa bayan. That's
Simula, Rita,
Yeah.
sa pamamahal sa sarili at sa pamilya, sa mga neighbors,
exactly.
people in your barangay, people in your town,
Mhm.
people in your province, and up. Love should start with something at the beginning.
Yes.
If you cannot even have it at the beginning, you're not capable of loving your country. You are not capable of loving your country. But
That-
if you only love yourself, you are not also capable of loving your country. You
Exactly.
should love yourself, of course, your neighbors, your friends, your fellow citizens.
Yeah.
And then there you can have love of country, because that's the country.
Yeah.
That's the country.
The
We
extended
are- you and
family.
I,
That's
the
the
country.
village. Yes, that's the nation.
We are
But
the
then it
country.
all begins with the nucleus of this, which is the family. Bono,
That's correct.
we've lost a generation already, or maybe 2 generations, when we've had the exodus of so many overseas workers,
That's
parents, or a mother or a father, and then they stay there for a couple of years, and maybe some of them won't even want to come back anymore because they're earning dollars. So what happens? The family becomes dysfunctional. The dollars that are being sent is part of the mana, or the what they call the bounty that the children enjoy. So they have the latest appliances, the latest gadgets, good clothes, and so forth. But there is no family anymore, which is even more essential. So that generation, what would they aspire for? Maybe they would want to go abroad again, like their parents, so they could earn dollars.
No, make
So
money.
you see, we've lost that generation. Now
Rita,
we have this because of the influence of entertainment, of media, of Hollywood, of Korea, and all of this, TikTok, etc.
TikTok.
That's another generation we have today, and we're losing it. Because what will they aspire for? To be a jazz singer, to be a Korean actress, to to TikTok and earn something from this, because they do earn from this. They come out 3 minutes, or maybe even a minute or so, and teach you how to use makeup, how to use affordable lipstick, etc. And then that's the earning that they have. So that's the generation we have today. So again, as I've said, we are losing our children to that particular, if you call it aspirations or exasperations, as you would call it. But the higher level, as you said, artistic work of the imagination, creativity. We have, of course, exceptional writers, painters, and so forth. But it seemed to be a generation ago. Just recently, we had somebody who launched a book and he was already on a wheelchair. But a lot of young writers are also coming up, some of them also in their own languages. But we need more. We need more of those who could use their creativity.
Yeah. An old legendary mayor for about 19 years, he used the word bansagon.
Pardon?
Bansagon.
What is that mean? What is it?
Bansagon in Mindanao is character and family honor.
Uh-huh.
When I graduated salutatorian in elementary, I did not like to go to and deliver my speech because I thought I deserved to graduate valedictorian. They graded the character of my father instead of me. So I said, no, I'm not going to go to the graduation. I'm not going to deliver that speech. You know what my father told me? You have to go there because you are my son. And kita may bansagon.
Uh-huh. A matter of honor.
Yeah. Family honor. Now, does anybody care about family honor? God's sake.
Yeah. We have lost many of the values that we cherished in our perfect past perfect, Bono. And that's exactly why I go back to the nuances of the grammar of past, present, and future, because we would like to look at a future progressive with what we have gathered from the past, which we had different ways of looking at things, of enjoying things. Now it's the gadgets in front of you. As a matter of fact, there was a cartoon I saw at the New Yorker magazine, one of my favorite magazines, by the way. And St. Peter was wondering the new entrance of souls into heaven. And he said, I don't understand, but all of them are looking at their fingers down. So that means that these people were used to their cell phones, So that is how they look like when they get to the heavens anyway. It's supposed to be a joke, but that's exactly how the situation is. Somebody's drowning. Instead of diving into the pond or the ocean or the river to save that person, you would turn around and have a selfie so that you could record the incident or something to that effect. So we have had different value systems that have been erased, and we have different concerns now. I wouldn't want to call them values, but we have different concerns now which we are involved in. As a matter of fact, I have one of the pediatricians was telling me that he would tell the parents or the yaya of the children that would come to her clinic not to bring their cell phones, so that she could talk directly to the child. But this is how it is. We now have the gadgets. We are dependent on them. The mobile phone sleeps beside us. If it rings, we have to answer. We have to text everybody, etc. and all, or at least broadcast everything else that really doesn't matter. But that's the way it is. Now we're entering another stage, which is artificial intelligence. And then, of course, you have Chat GTP and all of this. Oh, my goodness, Bono. Where do we go for a future progressive?
It's return to fundamentals.
Okay, very good.
To the fundamentals.
Yes, so Bono, we're just about to close. return to fundamentals. I had a program a couple of weeks back precisely on that, the fundamentals, the basics, the basic values. But before we close our program, Bono, well, could you announce again that at this stage, after all the attempts you've had, you would want to have an audience with President Marcos Jr.?
Yeah, for unity and cooperation.
Yes, so that is
I-
HOMOBONO ADAZA. We will be having him again at some future time. Thank you very much, Bono, for having joined me. It's been quite a while. Maybe the next time we could have a full hour of poetry reading, yours and mine
Yeah,
together.
why not?
Why
I'll
not?
publish my poems before the end of the year.
Very good. Yes, so would I.
Okay, you better do, because your poetry is very enchanting.
Oh, thank you very much.
I read some
Okay,
of
do
them.
we still have time to look over the messages we've received? Yes, as fast as we could. But thank you, Bono. I just want to read some of those sub-center messages. Good evening, Ma'am Gadi. Watching from Baguio City. Oh my goodness, we just heard about your mayor talking about what is happening there. Virgilio Villanueva, 6 to light. Good afternoon, Ma'am Rita. Orly Dakuyang, good afternoon po. These are all just greetings of good afternoon. My late grandmom was one of the blue ladies in our town. Apolacay, very well, yes. Jinky Bill, good evening, watching from Germany. Guten Morgen, whatever it is. Irene Ginon, good afternoon. Amelita, iba na po ang panahon at mula pa noon sa panahon ni late FM, laging may reklamo po kayo. Ugali po ng mga Pilipino ang dapat magbago, etc. Ang galing ni FEM, subalit sinira pa rin siya. Anyway, so 17 years old ako nung mamamalengke ang aking inay, sasakay kami ng kariton, hila ng kalabaw kasi 500 pesos noon. Kompleto na may bigas, isda, tuyo, suka, asin, gas na palagay sa ilaw. So all of this. Anyway, English literacy in Asia is also important, old treasured values. This is from Andres Teves. John Barros, it is an interesting topic listening to both of you. Thank you very much. There are actually more messages, and we will just be answering them as time goes by. Thank you to our guest, Bono ADAZA. This has been the Chronicles of Rita Gadi.
God bless.
God bless, Bono.